Today we're comparing triad shapes in various positions of the guitar. More specifically, we're actually taking a triad shape and then playing the same exact notes in a different area of the guitar to fully explore our instrument and to learn the similarities of how music theory kind of works on the instrument itself. Follow the lesson for free and pick up all the tips from the video. But if you're interested, this is number 61 to 65 from my book, Exploring the Fretboard, 100 Exercises for Intermediate Guitar. And there's a link for that in the description. Seeing the music notation will be very important to more serious students for a variety of reasons. But the main thing today is that when you're doing this, you want to say those note names out loud. The main point of the exercises today is to just compare unison passages played in different areas of the guitar. That's your primary goal. There's a whole world of music theory and fretboard theory that we could get into, but that is like a gigantic topic that a whole book could be dedicated to. This exercise, I want you to do one thing. I want you to say the note names out loud. So like C, E, G, C, E, G, C, E, G, C, E, G. By saying those note names out loud, you will be learning the notes over the whole fretboard. And you'll also be learning about some of these triad shapes and how they compare in different places of the instrument. Another great benefit of this is that when you're playing your repertoire, you always have the choice of playing it somewhere else on the instrument. And it will sound different based on where you play it. It will also offer advantages. Sometimes you'll play something in upper positions because the thing that comes afterwards is also in an upper position. So you want to break out of like just playing down in this area and learn how to play everything all over the whole fretboard. Before I actually play these exercises for you and talk about them, I will say that a full study of triads on the guitar is a huge undertaking. I learned a lot of my triads through jazz studies, and even like at the beginning of like that Jody Fisher book on jazz, it's like there's like 4 pages or something of like all your triads and inversions, and those couple of pages represents a gigantic amount of work. You really want to learn those inside out and really know them. That represents just like hours and hours and days and months of study. Of course, the few exercises that we're doing today, that's not necessarily the intention. Although you might learn some triad shapes from it, which is great, the intention is actually just the comparison of positions in this case. If you learn a little bit of fretboard theory along the way, that is definitely why I included it in the book, but it's not a full study of triads. That is a much bigger undertaking, and we're not going to be talking a lot about that theory aspect. So today your task is simple. You say the note names out loud and you play it in various positions. While I'm playing today, I might be talking about what position you're playing in, giving those tips, but I want you to say the note names out loud when you practice at home. So exercise number 61, these are all triads in root position. So it's C major triad in root position, meaning that C is in the bass. So in first position, you have C, E, G, and then pretty much the same, except we're going to close the G for second position. C, E, G. So you can still recognize that shape there, but you're just closing the G there. And then we have C, E, G in fifth position. And then in seventh position, C, E, G. Notice that the second position and the seventh position was the same shape, right? One other thing, I won't do this for every single exercise because it will be too time consuming in the video, but these are all based on your scales, right? Like if you play a major scale to the fifth, we've gone over all of those major scale patterns already in previous exercises. I don't expect everyone to make all the connections all the time, but for students that are a little bit more familiar with those scale patterns, you'll just simply recognize that, like, oh, 1, 3, 5, the first, the third, and the fifth of the scale forms your triad. 1, 3, 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 3, 5. Like I said, we could just put out hours and hours of video on this topic. Your task is much more simple. You're going to be saying the note names out loud and just playing it and comparing the positions. But if you're, maybe when you go over the book a second time, you can make more of these connections as you go. Number 62, these are root position triads in an upper position. So C, E, G. Third position, C, E, G. And then we have eighth position, C, E, G. And then we have ninth position, C, E, G. I think by now you're probably getting more oriented toward where your C's are on the instrument. But maybe for some people, that is going to be the most difficult aspect of this exercise, is just finding those C's. And that's great. That's great if it's taking you, time to find that, because after a few, if you practice this exercise for a whole week, you'll know where your C's are. You'll really start to get oriented as to where those are. That's part of the book too. Whether you're more on the beginner side or more on the advanced side, you'll get different things out of these exercises. Number 63 is a first inversion triad. That means that the third of the chord is in the bass. So instead of C in the bass, we have E in the bass. E, G, C. E, G, C. E, G, C. That's a little bit of a stretch, that one, in seventh position. E, G, C. And then E, G, C. Number 64 is upper position triads in first inversion. I couldn't do the first one as a held chord, so it's all in the first string. E, G, C, and then E, G, C. The reason I'm using these fingerings is because it lets you hold all the notes, right? Or at least the last two in this case. And then eighth position, E, G, C. And then we're up in 12th position, E, G, C. So again, these are all still all based on scales, of course, because they're just scale degrees, right? It's the first, the third, and the fifth of the scale. Huge undertaking to really make all these connections. Again, your task is to say those note names out loud and to play the exercises. Number 65. This is a second inversion triad. G, C, E. So second version, the G is in the bass, the fifth is in the bass. I'll do that again. G, C, E, G, C, E, all on the fifth fret there. G, C, E. Those are the same notes, of course, but it's like a different position. This is fourth position, this is fifth position. And then eighth position, G, C, E. There's a lot to unpack there, but don't, it depends on what level you're at. If you're an advanced student and you've gone over lots of scale patterns before, then you can link up all of these triad patterns with scales, right? Just by thinking in terms of the first, the third, and the fifth of the scale. For other students, I think this is just like an orientation exercise where you are playing the notes and comparing the positions, and that's getting you to know your instrument better and breaking you out of first position and getting you playing stuff all over the instrument. I would imagine that for some students, these exercises are going to take much longer than previous ones, because when the notes start making leaps like this to, not just going in order of the musical alphabet, orientation of the notes is going to be so much more important. But that's okay. Spend as long as you need to on each exercise. If it takes you, a month for each exercise to know it well, then take a month. If it takes a few days, great. If it takes 5 months, fine. Just whatever you have to do to get comfortable with the exercise. Learn it by rote, by watching the video first, and then look at the notation and really understand and say those note names out loud. However you arrive at your final destination is fine, because if you're playing it and saying the note names out loud, you will be learning the intention that I have with these exercises.